Everybody, Tim here with a very special guest. I have Barbara Wilder here, author of Money is Love, which I was just telling Barbara, and I was not gassing her up. Money is Love is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best manifestation, energy healing books of the last 50 years. Certainly one of the best, if not the best, book on kind of money energetics, healing our money energetics that I've read. That's a modern book. So Barbara, I'm not even going to give you more of an introduction than that. I'm just so glad. We used to have a lot of guests on this channel. We don't anymore. I'm so glad that we were able to have you on. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure. Um, Jim, I'm just getting to know you a little bit. It's such a pleasure to hear where your journey and where you come from, and to then be able to share mine with you too. It's really fun. So thank you for having me.
Of course, absolutely. And yeah, we were just talking before we pressed record, and I'm sure we'll get into some of this. But for those of you who do not know you and your journey, Money is Love is, as I said, a very unique book. We were talking about your good old hippie days back in the 60s, but can you fast forward to the point in your life, which was a couple decades later, where kind of this idea or this realization that money is love, where that came from and kind of the circumstances you were in?
Well, sure. First, I'll jump one decade. I mean, back to my my spiritual training, because that's where it really the seed was planted.
Mm.
I studied in a Hermetic mystery school called the School of Actualism for 11 years, and we worked with light energies and energies on all kinds of levels, and we worked with colors and different frequencies of light in different chakras, and not traditional chakras, many more than the traditional chakras, and different frequencies. And one of the frequencies was the royal purple frequency that was in the high heart chakra, which this was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, it was just started being focused on, was the high heart chakra just back then. And that energy was called higher will, and the will of the higher. And it was about abundance and goodwill for all. And my teacher, his name was Russell Schofield, who said that it was time for the good guys to have the money. Mm. And when we first got that session, when I was just beginning back in 1975, I went, "Oh, this is the answer," and I had no idea that was the question.
Yes.
I thought, right? And I said, and then we just went on to different colors and doing different things, and I thought, well, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this abundance and goodwill for all? This has got to be what we should be doing.
The top thing, right? Yeah.
Right. And so then fast forward to another 20 years, and I had left the school and I was doing the work, but taking it more into the realms of the feminine and different levels of connecting with the Sophia energies and the connection with Mother Earth, and the umbilical cord that was cut when we put God in the sky, and we disconnected from our deep connection to the abundance for all, which is the earth that's always abundant, right? And so then I had a personal tragedy, money tragedy, in that my mom died, and on her deathbed, she told the doctor that I was her bad child and my brother was her good child, and then she cut me out of the will. I didn't, and that was a surprise. So I was disinherited, completely disinherited, and my brother didn't share. And this, and but I've been on the spiritual path for now 30 years,
Right.
and so I had to, I didn't go I didn't even recognize that I was going into deep depression because I was always at the light and processing and being, seeing, but you know, and then but I got guidance right as soon after that to leave Los Angeles, where I had a career in the movie industry, and go and just follow my inner voices. And it took us. Oh, the 1994 earthquake happened,
Yeah.
and our house fell down, or lots of it. And um, luckily, we were renting. So and and so I just got this guidance to leave, and we left, and we got guided to Boulder, Colorado, and in Boulder, Colorado. I followed all of, my teachings, all my messages from a higher self, and I know I'm supposed to be here. And we went bankrupt. We got evicted. Nothing worked. and and it was at that point we had just finally gotten a little apartment, and we were getting back on our feet. And somebody came over. Some friends came over for dinner, and they said they were going to go after dinner if we'd like to come to this fellow that was in Boulder from the UK, who was known as the godfather of or grandfather of crop circles.
Hmm.
And I love crop circles. I love the whole idea of crop circles. And when they said, "Did we want to come?" I went, "Oh, yeah." And he was 80 years old at the time, and it was his birthday. And so it was just at a house. It was just at somebody's home. And when we got there, we were a little late. And he was standing up next to the fireplace, giving a little talk. He's an adorable little man with a little, light ponytail and cutest buttons. And his name was Stanley Messenger. And so we came in, and we stood at the back of the room because we were late, and we didn't want to make any, you know, a disturbance. And so we're standing there, and he's talking about crop circles, and suddenly he stopped, and he was looking right at me, and he said, "Oh, I just have to tell you something. I just have to tell you that money is love." And then he went right back to talking about crop circles. It was
Such a good story.
and and so I went up to him afterwards. Oh, no, but so I'm standing there, and this words come at me, right? And now I am disinherited, and I'm bankrupt, right? I am, and these words went into my heart, and I went, "Truth.
Yep.
That's the truth." And my monkey brain said, "No, it's not. You're bankrupt. Money is just awful." And I'm going, but my training is that, abundance and goodwill for all, right? And I'm just going, I just opened my heart open. I was like, and I was just epiphany moment, right? And I went up to him afterwards and to ask him more about it. And he said he didn't know any more about it, that he just heard some people talking about it in Scotland just before he came here. And that just before he went to sleep the night before, where he was in Crestone, which is a pretty high vibration place in Colorado, you might have heard of. And he said just before he went to bed, he saw this pink ball of light in front of him. And he thought of the words, "Money is love." And then when he looked at me, there was a pink ball of light there, and he had to say it, right? And I said, "Oh, interesting," because I work with the light energy, and the light, the pale pink light is the energy, the Christ light. It's that the Christos. It's the and he makes sense. And then uh, that makes sense. And actually, I did then just chased him around and went to all of his talks and tried to get him to tell me more, but he wouldn't tell me more. Mm-hmm. He said, no. He kept saying, Barbara, I don't know more, but right. This is right, but then that set me on this journey and I spent a year reading everything I could read about money.
Exactly.
Money itself, not looking at manifestation kind of stuff or anything like that. I wasn't, and right. That stuff really wasn't that hadn't really started to be a big deal.
I was going to say, and that's what makes it so different. Your book is that you're talking about money and its origins, and I want you to continue talking right. about the journey you have with it, but without any of this manifestation. I'm going to say the word crap because this is a channel where we often discuss these ideas, and obviously we both believe in a lot of these ideas, but the way you talk about the history of money and what money means in this book is so lacking the normal manifestation buzzword marketing bullshit, and it's just so stark and clear how you explain it. In case you can't tell, guys, I mean, if you haven't read this book and you are interested in money energetics, like, read Barbara's book. But yeah, please continue, because I would love to hear more about that, about how you started really going deep into the history of money and what it means. Because I had never, before I found your book, I kind of heard of that before, but it was never laid out in a way that made spiritual sense to me in the way that it does when you describe it in Money is Love.
It makes me feel so good. So it's there wasn't it was one of the first books at that time that because I didn't pay attention to any of the traditional books about manifesting money.
Right.
I hadn't read any of those. That wasn't what I read. I read historical facts about money, right? But then I could only go so far back, and then there was no more books to read about it, because in history I had to go to prehistory, and there's nothing written in prehistory. So I was reading all these books, and I did read. I think I did. No, I didn't read it until afterward. Anyway, that I've forgotten the name of that book. Anyway, The Kabbalah of Money by anyway, a fabulous Jewish writer. But
excellent. I've never read it.
Anyway. Yeah, it's a wonderful book. But I didn't read that till after I wrote Money's Love. Now that I recall. But anyway, so I just got to this place, and then I thought, and I was meditating every single day.
Of course.
On this money, right. On this. Right?
And again, the other important thing is, like, this is not something that's new to you. This is part of your spiritual journey or practice that's been going on for decades, right? Just for people who are listening, this is not someone who just stumbled into this idea overnight randomly. So yeah, I think that's important.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was part of my spirit. I just took it all in. And so I had been writing a screenplay about a Celtic queen called Boudica, and I had studied a lot of Celtic history to write this. So I was kind of steeped in that too. And I had read a little something about the Celtic gold, the gold road. Mm-hmm. And that sort of took me into, let's look at what that is and what that was. And so eventually I got into, just in my meditations every day, just being taken into prehistory. And that's way before Boudica, back to when we were sitting on the earth and connected to the earth and being and sharing. Everything was about sharing, and also the subtitle of Money is Love is very important. It's called Reconnecting to the Sacred Origins of Money.
Yes, exactly.
And that's where finally I got to, was the sacred origins of money and how the Mother Earth gave to us and we gave back to her. And we were connected there so that everything that we did was connected to her, who was abundance, and we used that as part of just our being. Our being was just being part of the mother and the sharing that she shared with us from the wildlife and all the things that grow, and then I took it to then I just got to this next level in history as I was progressing with this, to this understanding that uh, that as we started to be, we hadn't gotten abstract thought yet. We hadn't come to abstract thought. Everything was literal. Everything was literal. This I have in my hand. So when I have, and we've discovered gold by this time, and silver, and these precious metals, and when we hold them in our hands, we think that they are, gold is the sun, and silver is the moon, and they're God. Mm-hmm. They're the God. They're the goddess. They're everything is, and that's where I understood that's where gold and silver became precious, and why it has value is because in our pre-abstract thought, it was God. And that then I went through other iterations of how we came and got separated from that as we had abstract thought, and we started having war, and then we started having people wanting to have more of other people's things, and we got to ourselves to where we are today. Mm-hmm. Over that past 5,000 years of just disconnecting, just being disconnected from the spiritual, the deep mother spirit. And it's not just mother. Mother, of course, it's mother, father, God. It's all encompassing. And and for years, for a couple thousand years, we did have kind of balance in the gods and goddesses, and when we did have some balance in some historical places like Crete, and the ancient um, civilization on Crete, where it was a very balanced,
yeah,
very balanced society, and everything worked. And it was abundant, incredibly abundant. I mean, it was wonderful because abundance, when it's in balance, everybody is taken care of.
Self-sufficient.
So yeah. It's the only thing that makes money not be in abundant is the fact that some people, that we live in this duality now, have separated us in every way, and it has to be the haves and the have-nots, and we have to have it that way. And now we are living in the epitome, the paramount of the haves and the have-nots. 4 or 5 people having more money than a third of the people on the planet.
Right. And I think one thing that's very paradoxical about manifestation teachings in regards to money is how the ideas you're talking about, the depth of them, is then marketed in most manifestation teachings, saying, well, you can become rich too, like those 3 or 4 people, and it's not taking into account 1/3 of the world's population. It's insanity. It's the definition of craziness. And yet that is how most people, when they talk about energetic abundance, are sold this stuff, oh, I'm gonna get this by becoming more energetically aligned, right? Like it's some special thing, when it's just it's so imbalanced to look at money that way historically.
It is so. I back in the back in 2013, I think, I decided I should go to other people's, you know, explore what other people were doing about
Sure.
money.
Right.
And I went to one, and then I had a new friend who was teaching Bob Proctor's work,
Yep.
and I went to that, and it got to the place in the work a couple of weeks in where it says, and then you will get the lion's share.
Right.
If you do this and this, then you get the lion's share. And I went, oh, oh no, no, that's just the problem.
Yeah.
That's the whole problem. You can't get the lion's share if this is going to work.
Yeah.
And I am, I do see that this is what we have to change. This is not, it's not simple. That's some people get to be the better spiritual people, so they get to have more money.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Ain't how it works. Ain't how it works.
One of the things I was writing about in this, I mentioned to you that I have this manuscript that's not finished because it's not time, called Creating a Sacred Marketplace. What I believe is, or see is, or sense is that we can't create this new world based on the economy we live, supported by the economy that we have today.
Right.
You can't. We have to. This whole economy has to fall apart, and what we're seeing is it doing that. It's not a comfortable place to be, but until we open our hearts, it's about opening our hearts to each other. And what we're seeing is that split of, some people believing that you can't, that you've got to shut your hearts to the other. I mean, it's about love. That's what money is love means.
Right.
Money is the love of all of us for each other, so that it grows. Because love grows things, right? An open hand gives and receives simultaneously, right? But a closed fist doesn't. That's energy. That's just a different energy. Yeah. So we can sit around and try to manifest. And it can, it's good that we have enough for ourselves. It's not good that we don't stay open to everyone and everything else.
Yeah, so well said. I guess, taking it back to a very practical level, I'm curious what you would recommend for people getting into this money work seriously. And I know you share several excellent recommendations in Money is Love. But what are some practices, either from the book or what you've noticed in the 25 years plus since the book's come out, that you think are effective for a lot of people? What are some general recommendations that you think people can utilize to start realizing and embodying more love and circulation with money, as opposed to grasping too tightly onto it?
I think one of the first things is to look at the fact, look at columns. Look at what things in two columns: the good stuff and the bad stuff, right? the good stuff that's spiritual, right? The good stuff of, loving your neighbor and being and meditating and doing all those things. And this is all about our judgment, right? And our judgment of, that money is, in the place uh, where the bad stuff is, the having, you know, greed and anger and poverty, and it lives over there. And never shall it come to the spiritual side, because Christianity taught us that it was more blessed to give than to receive.
Yep. Exactly.
Taught us that money was was not for the good Christian, the people. While the church was the richest entity, right? So all of that stuff was to keep people small, to make it say, "Oh, you're not supposed to be a spiritual person if you have a lot of money. You're supposed to be suffering and poverty in poverty." Oh, there's a very deep place in people's consciousness. Uh, but Jesus wasn't throwing money out of the temple. He was throwing the money changers out of the temple.
Yes.
Money had previously been taken into the altar to be blessed and taking care of everyone. Now, with the past 2,000 years, with this false belief. So the first thing to do is to take money out of the non-spiritual world and put it into your spiritual life. Put it over into this column and start to look at it like it's something blessed, something sacred, something that can take care of you, something that's good and that you can share. So, and that's the first step, I think,
Yeah.
is to change that old belief system. And the fear, of course, because the fear that there's not enough to go around, to change that perspective, to change our perspective from there's not enough to go around to saying there's enough for everyone. It's not true that it's okay for some people to take it all and there's nothing left for you. But that takes us to having to step into loving ourselves and loving ourselves. And we've been taught to not love ourselves. We have been taught that we're small. We grow up in families that didn't have enough, but families that have plenty teach the same thing, that there's
Yes.
not enough. There's just not enough. And the fear, actually, and I've seen this in groups that I've led, actually, that a person that has a couple $1,000,000 in the bank, in the same little group of, maybe 10 people in a room, carries the same or more fear about not having enough, as this person who's living on, just, barely making it,
Right.
living check to check, right? It's that's so ingrained in us, so that, journaling and doing, and in, this little light energy healing that I teach in the book, that you can see on my website. You can look at it. Actually, on my website, there's a wonderful meditation that you get for free, that you can
We'll link to
listen
it.
to.
Yeah.
And because we have to break down the programming. The programming, right, is where. So, and that's in the book. I do little fun things like taking money and, healing it with light, and getting to know it. Of course, we don't touch money anymore.
Yeah. Which I don't like. Yeah. Yeah. I love you writing a note on money. I always love that one from you. I still do that all the time. Or on a check, writing on a check, a smiley face, or or money is love or whatever. I did that just today. I still write checks, but most people don't write checks anymore either,
I
let alone
know.
touch cash. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And nowadays I tell people, just whisper it while you make your transaction
Right.
online, right? Just say money is love. Just say the words because it's like a prayer. Back in the day when I was first, when we still had checks and cash, I would find, I would be I would be writing money is love on a check. And oftentimes the clerk would say, what did you why did you write money is love on the check? And then I would get to say, well, this is because this is a prayer. And it's so that we can change money so that everybody can have enough. And then people will start talking about it in line, you
Right.
know. One student of mine, an English woman, uh, wrote it on a a £5 note,
Yep.
and she got it back. She's in London. She wrote that and paid for something, and later got the same one back.
They came back. Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yes, you know. So there's it really does mean it does take this deep change in our hearts. It's in the heart. It really is in the heart where it changes. Um, Other things are, um, one of my favorite things I do in groups, in person, in person groups. Oh, such a wonderful thing. Um, I haven't done that for a while. Um, is first of all, we take we used to take the dollar bill or $20 bill.
Mhm.
Everybody has one. Everybody, and then we put the light in our hands and we heal the money and we heal the energy because money carries the energy. Money is energy, and so the cash itself carries the energy that is all this fear and greed and lack and suffering and all that stuff. Because when we had money that touched our hands, and we were literally touching some of the pain that had gone,
The trauma. Okay.
through the
Yeah.
trauma
Yeah.
on the money. So we would heal the money and then uh, pair off, and each person would look into the other person's eyes until they saw the God in the person, and then give their money to the God in that person,
Mhm.
so that you're shifting how you share money. So and then we would go out and take our healed money and go and find homeless people and practice giving to the God in. But then also, in the writing your check, give it to the godness in the IRS.
Exactly.
You know,
Right. The
you
electrical
know,
company, the
right?
landlord. Exactly. Yeah. The bank.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah. So
That,
that
and
we
people
break
dislike
that.
that. Exactly. People. Yeah. That's a big one. And I'm glad you addressed that in the book and, in your teachings, because people are so reticent to pay for things that are abundance. Your electricity, your food, your housing.
Right.
You don't want to pay, and you don't pay your roads. You don't want to pay for these things. Like yeah, I don't understand. Um, but I do feel like what you're describing is, I mean, techniques are great, but I think we both know it has to be an outlook, and I think
Yeah.
it's an outlook that is you have to cultivate. It's not a one-time thing. It's not a quick fix. And you talk about this in the book too. Like, it's not, this stuff is not a quick fix. Like, it's your relation. Most of our relationships with money is so traumatized that I feel like you really have to look at it like you have to find that child within yourself that's been traumatized by it. And you also have to see that God in yourself, so to speak, and the God in money that is pure and what you really are, right? And that's why I love doing relationship and energetic work with money, because it ain't no joke.
Right.
It's very, the vast majority of people, because I agree with you exactly. in people with, millions in the bank often, or in investments, have just as, strangled of a relationship as people with very little money, a lot of times, sometimes worse, right? That
Yeah.
it's long-term work, and
Yeah.
paradoxically, I made a little video about this today. It's funny. I met a gentleman this morning that I'd heard about, and just, finally met him in person, and he was, has a considerable amount of money, and
Mhm.
all of the, you would think all the trappings of wealth. And I pictured this, I still, after all these years of doing this work, I pictured this, buttoned up guy, very, and instead this guy was a total hippie, you know what I mean? He had chickens in his backyard, right? I'm like, oh, right. And this, I could tell right away, the energy was I was like, this guy gets it, right? You know what I mean? But
Yes.
most guy with millions in the bank, or gals with millions in the bank, it's not like that. For people think, oh, the rich understand something I don't, and maybe they do financially in terms of some investments or what have you. Of course, that certainly might be the case, but energetically, you can switch the playing field you're on in a good way for everybody. uh you can start doing it quickly, because people just aren't aware of how badly most of us feel about money.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it began, it was all, it became a plan. It became a plan. It, you know, and when we left the partnership society, if you know Rianne Eiler's work, the partnerships culture, and moved into the dominator culture for the past 5,000 years. And now we're getting ready to move into this more evolved partnership world. This is part. This is the part. This is part of it. This is like baseline. This is baseline for shifting into a space of a new era for human consciousness.
Yeah.
This is when there is enough for everyone, and when you can feel like so. One of my challenges over all these years, because it's kind of midwifing this is not,
Yes.
it's a kind of well, up and down roller coaster.
Sure.
I go with everything in my own life goes exactly with what's happening in the world, money wise. So, so it's, um, and I lost my train of thought. Um,
Your One of your challenges, or one of the things you've noticed over the
okay,
years in regards
right,
to.
right that. Oh, that it's easy for me to want to give it to everyone and to have it be abundant for all. The difficult part for me, and I tell many other people, is for myself.
Right.
Right. That's the deepest challenge, and that's the
Yeah.
challenge I'm dealing with at this moment in time. Is as as it's completely falling apart, so is everything in my money world, and I still know that this is truth, but that I have to go deeper down into my own self love, opening my heart bigger at this very moment to
Yeah.
do what is being called for, and learning that deeper level, and learning it at 81 years old, which is a very challenging.
it, it makes it so you make sure you do the work.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's yeah, it's it's humbling. It's humbling.
Yeah, that's what I found. I've been into energetic money work for over a decade, and it's constantly humbling. And I
Yeah,
feel like, I first started doing it, and I thought, well, it shouldn't be this way, right? You have some personal success, or some success helping other people, and you think, oh, great, this is easy, but this works, right? And then life happens, culture happens, the world happens. We're saying Trump happens, COVID happens, right? AI happens, and it's not a simple system. And looking within yourself, uh, it's always the work. And that's what's great about this, is when you look at yourself and your own relationship with money, and then you're talking to people, whether it's doing what we do, or just talking to family or friends about money in a different way, it does affect other people's relationship with money and with
yeah,
themselves. Because
right.
again, this is a loaded subject. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I am curious. I'm curious because you come from uh, such a long spiritual practice, and we were discussing before we started recording about your kind of basically hippie background, and me always having kind of hippie a hippie sensibility, even though I was too young for that. But how in the 60s and early 70s, or in the 70s, there was just this assumption almost like, well, we have to share, we have to share.
Yeah.
And then the last 50 years, how seemingly that's become, in American culture at least, less and less of just the accepted norm in many ways. And now here we are in 2026 in a very interesting time. I'm just curious some of your thoughts about how, and this is a big picture question, you can answer it however you like how things have shifted from the 60s to now. And I know you're talking about things kind of dismantling before they get better. What you think that might be like, or if you have any idea, or energetically what that seems like to you.
It's a very big picture question, and I'm up for the challenge.
Great.
So um, when we moved into the 80s, because as you said, in the 60s, the whole idea of being hippies was really about people moving into higher consciousness and coming with ideas after the end, after the Second World War, when some of the great atrocities of all time had happened. We were the generation that came from that, and to make it a better place, to make it a better world. And we did it by living in communes and sharing. It was always about sharing. I was in a theater company that we traveled all over the country. We did our show in New York, and that was all about sharing. My company was on the stage at Woodstock about sharing with Swami Satchidananda, and about being, and that was what we did, right? And we bought that, and then we got to the 80s, and all of a sudden, we went from the hippies to what was called the yuppies,
Right.
and all these people that were, because so many of the people that were in this hippie movement were from middle class,
Yeah.
middle class. So they just dumped this whole idea and went to being yuppies and investing in the stock market
Right. The
and
Reagan years.
the Reagan years. Yeah, they were just and they were they were buying $1,000 strollers for their children and stuff. I mean, it just didn't make any sense because we had been living in this wonderful way of not not having to have very expensive clothes and expensive houses, and all of a sudden that was happening. So what happened was this idea was planted in the 60s and early 70s. This new world got planted. It was like the land was cultivated, and the seeds were planted. And then what happens when you plant a new seed? Plant something new and you introduce it to consciousness, that instantly you have uh, resistance. Resistance comes and goes, no, 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 that's not going to happen. No, that's too big a change. We're not going to do that. And so we saw that get worse and worse and worse through the 80s and 90s, and until we and then we had kind of the dot-com crisis at the end of the 90s, and then we had the 2008 crisis, and then and now we have the Trump crisis, right? But each time it got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Of course, we had we had 9/11 and all the wars, because our generation marched against going to war, and we got rid of the draft. We did that. We did all those great things, and then all of a sudden we're having wars, like nonstop wars, right? So it's all got to go to the worst to be, but underneath, so much has changed. So much has changed. If you really look at it, I mean, my client just recently that I spoke with this morning, she was her daughter had given her a beautiful coffee mug, and in the side the rim of the coffee mug it said, "Be present." And I thought, 50 years ago, nobody was even thinking about being present. I mean, that's a big change,
Right.
right? 50 years ago, when I started this work, 50 or 60, 75, whatever long ago that is.
50.
Um, um, I mean, we had two black people in our theater company, right? And we were a small company, so. But I mean, but we black and white people were still not supposed to get married. Black and white people were not allowed to get married in most states. In my lifetime, when we were being hippies, this was being changed. That changed. I mean, we have black culture is everywhere and everything. I mean, what's happened, and all these biracial people, and I mean, that's huge. I mean, it causes lots of trouble, and there's lots of problems with everything. But it's we've made just great change. We have made great change, and there's lots to be seen about that. Right now, the resistance to the great change is the greatest resistance that we have. The greatest resistance. Yet at the same time, we have millions and millions and millions of people who have evolved into higher vibrational thinking and being consciousness that exists at the same time. And that's the seeds growing and coming up and sprouting and shining the light and shining and opening the light in our consciousness, because and then that's what I think I see is happening right now, is all of us are going deeper into knowing who we are and healing our own personal traumas so that we can shine more. And that energy, the collective energy of that, is what will shift us out of the resistance. And how they do.
Excellent. You gave a good encapsulation of 60 years in a couple minutes. Well, we should wind up, but it's been great having you on, Barbara, and I hope to have you on the channel again whenever you want to come back. Yeah, how can people? I'm going to put links to obviously Money is Love and also that light meditation on your website. Is there anything else that people should know if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, yes, I would just go to my website is barbarawilder.com, and you can reach me through that. Mostly right now working one-on-one with people. So if you're interested in coming and doing that, just text me and I'll get back to you. And in the meantime, have a very sacred day with money and love.